filling the potholes, educating, healthcare, and the capacity to serve Americans. And so,
the recent interview on Piers Morgan's show went absolutely ballistic when the host of the Majority Report, Sam Seder, cooked his opponent panel consisting of right-wing chorus like Benny Johnson and Jillian Michaels alongside Piers Morgan.
Sam, let's talk for a moment about the other big things going on, which is this whole Doge stuff with Elon Musk. You, I think, posted that the idea that Doge is in any way about efficiency is absolutely a joke. They're not doing an audit. They're destroying the apparatus of our government. What do you base that on?
Now, we all know Elon Musk has regularly been in the news for his shenanigans that ended up causing the sharp decline in Tesla's shares, and for his efforts to reprise his role as Dogecoin's CEO from next month.
Well, audits are done regularly of agencies by inspector generals. The first thing they did was to fire all those inspector generals and not replace them. A. B. Audits that lead to firings within a couple of days are obviously not being done. The notion that this is about efficiency when you're laying off thousands of IRS agents, when it is well known that every dollar spent at the IRS returns for the government $6 or $7. You're clearly not talking about efficiency here as measured in any other way other than allowing wealthy people to get away with cheating on their taxes.
Piers might have been really disappointed, seeing that he was practically drooling for a soundbite. He thought Seder would jump up and call Musk a crypto warlord or something. And why not? He hoped to spark a verbal fight between his guests and shoot that TRP into the sky.
Allowing wealthy people to get away with cheating on their taxes. I mean, I could go on, but there's absolutely no evidence that there's a single audit going on. To the extent that they've saved any money, it has been largely dismissed as clerical errors on their part, and we still have no substantiation about it. So it's
well, that's
a joke.
hang on, that's not true. I mean, there's some of the stuff that came out about US aid, for example, some of the way that American taxpayers' money was being squandered on ridiculous projects.
Oh, wait a second.
And it wasn't insignificant sums of money.
Wait a second.
Piers tried to corner Seder by bringing up Musk's Dogecoin stunt right after Tesla's profits tanked 71%, hoping he'd spark a fight. With the whole panel clearly ready to gang up on him, it felt like a trap. But instead of getting flustered, Seder stayed steady and turned it into an actual discussion, something that this show rarely hosts.
You can determine that you can have an opinion that it's squandered. I can have an opinion that it's squandered, but it's been appropriated by the Congress. And in America, we have actually both statutory, constitutional, and court cases that say the President of the United States and the executive branch cannot decide unilaterally that they're not going to appropriate money that Congress has appropriated.
Piers Morgan tried to pass the ball to the other side of the aisle as soon as Seder criticized Musk's Dogecoin stunts on air. However, Sam completely dismantled his arguments with pure facts and logic.
Appropriated. I mean, the line item video has been found to be unconstitutional. We have the Impoundment Control Act from 1974. We have Train v. New York City from 1974, which is a Supreme Court case which enforces that. What they're doing is fundamentally illegal.
You cannot throw a loose ball like that in front of a guest like Sam, and we can see Piers realized it quite well when he tossed the ball to Jillian, thinking, maybe you can take him.
Okay, Jillian, you were shaking your head there.
Because it doesn't seem that the government is working. As a layman, when the USAID is exposed in the fashion that it has been, and all of a sudden we have this transparency that we've never had in my lifetime.
None of this stuff was hidden at all. None of this stuff was hidden at all. It's just
so you're telling me that the average American knew that we were funding friggin' operas for trans people?
Jillian came in swinging with possibly the dumbest take of the night, claiming everything was exposed under the Democrats, like the GOP suddenly discovered sunlight. Thankfully, Seder was there to remind her that most of what she's ranting about was public knowledge the whole time. Not exactly the bombshell she thought it was.
The average American was interested in what USAID was supporting.
Come on, man. Do you really believe that?
Yes,
Do you really believe that people knew this and this was common knowledge? And there's no question that some of this was a slush fund for the CIA.
Well, actually, you know what? The truth is, you can both be right here.
Classic Pierce move. He lights the fuse by pitting guests against each other, then jumps in acting like the voice of reason, as if he didn't just start the whole mess. Meanwhile, Seder's the only one staying on topic, pointing out that Dogecoin isn't some revolutionary currency, and reminding everyone that the so-called exposés the MAGA crew keeps screaming about were never hidden to begin with. But those MAGA maniacs surely have some false sense of pride that leads to arguments like this.
Is what America decided in 2024, in a landslide and with the popular vote, the whole of the American people decided to vest a single man, Donald Trump, to hunt down waste, fraud, and abuse.
Oh, Benny Johnson suddenly cares about respecting election results. That's rich. The same guy who threw a months-long tantrum when Biden won is now preaching about honoring Trump's selection like it's gospel.
Maybe there are some type of programs that you might view as just. What I view as just is feeding the American people. What I view as just is filling the potholes, educating, healthcare, and the capacity to serve Americans. And so, what America voted for was America first, and transgender operas in Chile isn't exactly America first. And to say that USAID was simply...
You've said a lot of words, but you've said nothing. You haven't addressed the Constitution, the Supreme Court cases, the Impoundment Control Act.
Look at that. Benny Johnson was in full fanboy mode, praising Trump like he had descended from the heavens with a copy of the Constitution in one hand and a bald eagle in the other.
You can say that you don't think it's right to feed starving children in Africa. That's your prerogative.
Can we address the feed starving children?
Donald Trump, I can't believe you're going with the starving children. You're going with the starving children.
No, it does. I mean, it does other things that you don't like.
All right, let me.
But it also does this.
Allow the lady in the room to speak, please.
USAID money spent.
But when it came to back up Trump's decisions with, laws, Benny started doing verbal somersaults to dodge the question. Too bad for him, Samseder was wide awake and called it out before Benny could finish his patriotic tap dance.
Oh, don't play your starving children card. I can't.
Well, listen, it's not my card. It's just simply the reality. And the fascinating thing about
this, your card, though.
Piers,
your game is like nobody's empathetic because children are starving.
We are talking about USAID.
The panel basically turned into a group project where everyone's job was to gang up on Sam Seder. And shocker, Pierce was the lead cheerleader. But Sam didn't even flinch.
USAID is a percentage point, like literally less than 1% of the U.S. budget. But because there is this attitude amongst the, frankly, it's not just USAID. I don't like them cutting the IRS. I don't like them cutting the EPA. I don't like them cutting Labor Department. I don't like them cutting the National Labor Relations Board. I don't like them cutting the FDA.
Do you like the level of debt your country's in?
He casually torched the Bush tax cuts like he was reading a weather report, calling out those classic and Republican fiscally responsible moves that somehow always end in disaster. He might have been outnumbered, but he was definitely not outgunned.
And so if we want to deal with the debt, and if that's a genuine concern, we can go back to the time in this country where we had the greatest economic expansion during the 50s and the 60s, when we had a top tax marginal rate of 90% of every dollar that would be earned over $470,000. Today, it would be $3 million. And if these guys are very concerned about the debt and deficit, we have a way of raising that money. We can go back to the greatest economic time of this country.
In the end, it wasn't even close. Sam Seder walked into a panel packed with MAGA megaphones and left them speechless with nothing but facts, clarity, and an unshakable calm. While the rest of the guests and Pierce himself scrambled for gotcha moments and Fox News soundbites, Seder dismantled their arguments with surgical precision. It wasn't just a win, it was a dominant display of how to handle a hostile room without ever acting desperate like the opposition.